Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's video I'd like to take a look at a Forex chart, this time on the Euro US dollar on this 3-minute chart. This is FXCM data in the new MTPredictor version 7 beta. This TS4 buy setup was a standard MTPredictor buy setup because you can see the STF color had just turned black there. So standard and advanced MTPredictor users could have considered this trade setup. As you can see, it then took you into a long position. We use our position sizing here to calculate how many lots we should trade. Market goes up really nicely. It goes up, hits the first target there. STF is weak, therefore we could come out with a nice 3.7 hour profit. However, I would like to have a look at a bit more detail in this setup and see how it fits in with the large degree trend, because this is where things get interesting. So if I take that off and go to the 15-minute chart to start with, can you see how, well actually here's my analysis I had on from earlier, so I'll just take that off. First and foremost, this is where the 3-minute TS4 buy setup unfolded, so I want to go back a bit and have a look at this prior low here. Now this was actually an important low, because if you put the DP on from this low further back, you can see we scrolled the chart forward and this catches this low absolutely perfectly here. So this was actually an important low. It was an important low because it was found on a higher time frame chart. If we actually put the Elliott wave pattern on as well, you can see this was also a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with the wave 5 low unfolding right at that decision point support there as well. So what difference does this make for our TS4 buy setup here? Well, the difference it makes is because the euro is now coming off larger degree support, in other words support here, and in fact actually if we clear this off and we go out to an even higher time frame, which is an hourly chart, this gives even bigger support or resistance. You can see this is our 15-minute DP low here, this is our 3-minute TS4 buy setup here. So if I put the DP on from the prior pivot, can you see how this was coming in right at our hourly DP support? And interestingly enough, if I put the DP off this last pivot up here, you can see this is where the euro actually went to. So if I leave those hourly decision points on and I now come back to the 3-minute chart, can you see how if I now zoom out, how this low here was right at our major 15-minute and our hourly decision point low. The TS4 setup unfolded here, and actually the euro has now rallied up and actually stopped at our hourly decision point target here. So how does this make a difference for how you would manage this trade? Well, if we put the analysis back on again, rather than coming out at the first target here, because the large degree trend is up, we'd actually anticipate it rallying a little bit further. Now what do we call this kind of trade? Well, I call it the Holy Grail trade setup, because in Elliott wave terms, if we're coming off a major low, which we were right at this hourly decision point support here, the initial move up would be considered wave 1. The initial move down into this low here would be considered a wave 2. Let's just have a look at that if I clear the chart off by using the major Elliott wave routine in MTPredictor. Just right mouse click on the pivot, do Elliott wave major, and can you see how the MTPredictor routine has found this for you, where it's defined that initial swing up, albeit a little bit choppy on the shorter time frame, but the initial move up there would be we'd consider a wave 1. The decline down here is actually set into a wave 2 or B support zone, which is there. But because we know this was a large degree support down here, therefore an important low, we can actually make the assumption that this is actually a wave 2 and not a wave B. In other words, after a wave 2, we're anticipating a strong wave 3 kind of rally. So to project this in advance, we use our WPT tool. This can be done on the chart in advance, where we have three clicks at the low, at the wave 1 high, at the wave 2 low, and there you can see that's put on the chart for you. And that can be actually placed on the chart right back here when the initial setup actually comes in. And that's the important point, because we can use that for our risk reward analysis. So what does that mean for our risk reward? Well, if we put the automatic analysis on here, you can see that rather than going for our first target, which is here, we actually assume that this rally is going to be a typical wave 3 or a wave 3 type of rally. So we're actually looking for the market to go up into the typical wave 3 WPT up here. And if I zoom out a bit, you can see that's exactly what the market has just done. It's just actually reached this level here. What does that mean for the trade? Well, rather than being a nice 3.9 or 4R profit down here, it suddenly increases your profit to almost 9R. In other words, the profit on this was 9 times the initial risk. And this is the beauty of the Holy Grail trade setup, because you're coming in right at the end of a wave 2, and you're getting into what is considered the strongest, or usually considered the strongest and longest wave in a completed Elliott wave 5-wave sequence, which is the wave 3. So therefore this has the highest profit potential for the smallest initial risk. And as you can see here, this is exactly what's unfolded, where we're returning a potential profit of 9 times the initial risk, or potential profit of $3,600 approximately, or for just under a $400 US risk. But do you see how this was all set up? In that if we go to the hourly chart, it was all set up because of our larger degree support zone. And our larger degree support zone was on the chart there in advance. Off that low, that was the large degree support zone. We also anticipated the target here off that last pivot there. If we go down to the 15-minute chart, you can see we have exactly the same. In fact, I'll take those off and do it again, where here's the last major pivot low. So we put our DP on from the last major pivot low, and as you can see, it catches the low perfectly. We go back to the last major pivot swing high, which is here. Put the DP on, and again you can see it catching that high nicely. And as we've seen, this was also a 5-wave decline down here. So what do we also know? Is once the initial swing, which is usually stopping around the DP from the prior wave 4, which is roughly what happened here. Once this swing is actually exceeded, which it was around this level here, the move normally retraces the entire prior 5-wave sequence and goes up to the DP off the start of the prior swing, or prior complete sequence, which in this case is that same pivot we used there. So we knew once this pivot here was exceeded, which it was around here, that the market was going to go up into this decision point level here. So can you see how that now fits in absolutely perfectly with our 3-minute analysis, where here's our TS4 buy setup. It's our initial correction of the initial move off an important low. We then know that it's going to go probably beyond our first target, up into our typical wave 3 WPT, which as you can see here falls in exactly the same position as our higher time frame 15-minute and also our hourly decision point resistance. So this was a lovely example of an MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup, where the TS4 buy setup came in as the initial correction after the initial move off the important low. That low was determined in advance by our higher time frame DP. We then anticipating a strong wave 3 type rally, and that's exactly what unfolded. So hopefully this has been a great example of the MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup that's literally just unfolded on the euro against US dollar forex chart.